Hello and welcome to this episode of the Ranting Atheist podcast. Today we'll be listening to the fifth part of Was God in the Bible a Rape Apologist? We are almost there. We are almost at the final part of this very long series of Christians defending their God, who doesn't see rape as a crime against women, but a crime against men, because women are considered property of men in the Bible. So if you are new here and you are yet to subscribe, please consider subscribing. This podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube, or any other place you get podcasts from. So please enjoy this episode.
Okay, thank you for that, Tatiana. Okay, the next up is George. I didn't get any, response. And someone did ask how much submissions were. So it's around 5 minutes, but, we do allow you to go over. Just like with responses, we do allow people to go over like 30 seconds to a minute. But now if you're pushing into 2 minutes, then that's where the problem is. So just be mindful, right? If you're all self-aware that, hey, there are other people that want to speak as well, then I won't have to cut you off, right? So just think about other people on stage. George, go ahead, and then John, and then Pontius.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to cover a number of things and tie them together, and you guys can follow along in my bio, all the points I'm making and the sources I'm going to share. The reason I have a number of these points is that there is a fundamental misunderstanding in this room that is also very common when atheists and Christians discuss Jews and Jewish law. Basically, I'm saying you don't know what you're talking about. And let me tell you why. Let's follow along in my bio. The first thing you need to understand is that Jewish law and Jewish beliefs do not depend on the Torah solely. There was always two types of law given to the Jews. The first law was the written law. It's called the Torah. It's what Christians call the Old Testament. Because Christianity is a replacement theology. It assumes that there is a New Testament 2.0, which is better or updated. So the Torah is the first part of what Jews were given. The second part is, and always has been, equally important. It's called the Talmud. That is the oral law, right? The Torah was the written law. The Talmud is the oral law. The Talmud consists of the Gemara and the Mishnah. The Mishnah is when we wrote down the oral law. The Gemara is actually all the rabbis arguing with each other about what it means and kind of ultimately which one became precedent. So I'll repeat myself. The Torah was the written law. The Talmud was the oral law, and they are equally important. When Christians and atheists want to talk about Judaism or Jews or what Jews believed or what Jews practiced, they completely ignore the Talmud. But the Talmud is actually what was used to determine what was okay and was not okay, what Jews were allowed to believe or not allowed to believe. The other thing people misunderstand about Judaism and Jews is that we are not an obedient people. We are an unruly, stiff-necked people. So we were, in fact, encouraged to wrestle with God, okay? Israel, right, literally means to wrestle with God, to disagree with God. And so that tradition continues, okay? So when we see in the Torah something that is problematic, we reinterpret it. And oftentimes we live our lives and we were commanded to do the exact opposite. Or we believed that the Torah was not a holy book that is supposed to be taken literally word for word. That is completely counter to Judaism. We continuously continue, and this shocks many of my Muslim cousins, and this shocks some Christians who want to interpret the Torah and the Old Testament literally. We constantly do things and believe that the right way to behave is against what, or in addition to what the Torah says. So let's start there. The second part, if you scroll down, I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding about how long life expectancy was. And also there was a number of complete untruths about what the age of marriage was traditional in Judaism and for Jews. So life expectancy back in the time of biblical times was perhaps 40 years old. And there's an academic publication I put in here. Age of 12, follow along in my bio, age of 12 has never been the ideal age for marriage in Judaism. And I'll read you this quote. Citing the primacy of the divine command given in Genesis 1:28, the time between puberty and age 20 has been considered the ideal time for men and women to wed. Some rabbis have gone further to commend the age of 18 as more ideal. So again, let's look at the context. People only lived till age 40 or so. Okay, a 40-year-old person was considered old. Age 12 was not when most Jewish women were betrothed. Okay, that's not, in fact, true. But if they were betrothed at 14, 15, 16, 17, they were almost halfway done with their lifespan. You have to understand that context. No rabbi, no Jewish court ever encouraged women to be betrothed against their will. That is, in fact, we are commanded not to do that. And you'll see that in my bio further along. And rape was considered disgusting, an immoral act, and it was considered a sin, and it was punished in Judaism forever and ever and ever. Let's go down a little further. It was forbidden for parents to give their children in marriage before they had reached the age of puberty. The citation is Sanhedrin 76b. A man who, without any reason, refused to marry after he had passed his 20th year was compelled to do so by the court and was considered basically messed up. When I say messed up, I can give you quotes where, like, there were rabbis saying, God, this guy doesn't want to get married. So it wasn't just women, right? It wasn't just women. Men were also basically forced to get married by the age of 20 in those days. So the majority of men and women were getting married between the age of 14 and 19 or 18. That's kind of what was happening for both genders. According to the Talmud, this is the next paragraph, a father is commanded not to marry his daughter to anyone until she grows up and says, quote, I want this one. Women are given choice and agency in Judaism. Again, people who simply look at the Old Testament, don't understand or read the Talmud, don't understand what Jews believe, please don't speak on our behalf. Do a little bit more reading, educate yourself, whether you're an atheist or a Christian, stop talking about Jews and on Jews' behalf, get a little more educated, or invite a Jew or a rabbi. Today, by the way, in America, it's Shabbat. It's the Sabbath. Your chances of getting a observant Jew to actually share with you what we believe and what we used to believe are pretty low if you do these types of rooms on Shabbat. The next thing I want to say is it's quite selective. You know, when people say God, I think I could have misheard, God only intervened on behalf of Jews or didn't, that's false. God didn't intervene when Joseph was sold, and God didn't do anything when Joseph was sold into slavery. There was a lot of
part of a prophet.
Excuse me, I'm speaking. Respect is given. Respect is given, and respect is earned. Please let me finish.
But we have given you too much respect because you're speaking.
I'm sorry. No, I haven't finished my 5 minutes or even 4 minutes.
Hold on. And just let him round up. He was reaching the 5-minute mark. He's rounding up now. Okay, so just let him finish, and then you'll respond, please. I beg you. Go ahead and finish, George.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll only need about 30, 40 seconds at most. So, my point is this: one, I'm not a fervent believer in the Old Testament. If there's a fierce atheist in this room who wants to slay a religious Jew, you've got the wrong person. Okay, what I'm trying to tell you is, you are speaking about things you know nothing about. This room has been misrepresenting Jewish beliefs. The people who authoritatively say Judaism or Jews, justify rape are talking out of their ass. Judaism actually prescribes rape as a capital offense, as a punishment-worthy capital offense. I can cite for you hundreds of rabbinical opinions. And by the way, again, the rabbinical opinions are authoritative. They are how Jews lived our lives, back even in the biblical times. So please, please stop speaking so authoritatively and perhaps be a bit more humble and ask a few questions. Thank you.
Okay. All right. For me,
So, okay, go ahead, Ranting.
yeah, all I heard from all Jeffrey just did the exact same thing Christians did. You've thrown the Torah in the dustbin because you can see shit. So, you are yes, you are very educated. We are ignorant about the Jewish tradition. But you did exactly the same thing Christians do. They throw away the Old Testament, you throw away the Torah, and focus on the Talmud. Because your rabbis have seen that it's trash, it's crap. But continue.
Well, what the rabbis do is they base every opinion on the Torah.
George, sorry. Hold on one second. George, you actually will have a chance to respond to everything. So I think we're going to take like 2-3 responses to you. And yeah, you do get, time to respond to, whatever the responses to you are. So just hang tight. Enua, go ahead. I didn't get any other responses in my back channel. So once Enua's finished, George, you will have a chance to respond and then we'll move to the next person.
Okay, thank you. So it's either I missed it, but did we put Judaism on the chopping block today in this room? Maybe I missed it. Please flash your mic if we actually spoke on Judaism. So we were actually speaking of the God of the Bible, not Judaism. So you just...
There were people.
Huh?
There were multiple people.
There were Christians in his defense. There were Christians.
Maybe I
It's still the same thing now.
Wait, hold on 1 second. And in all fairness, people did speak on, Jews and Jewish law. We did talk about the Old Testament. So to be fair and objective.
But the Old Testament is part of the Christian faith. So that I speak about the Old Testament as a Christian doesn't mean I'm speaking about the Jews, because it's still part of the Christian faith, right? Or
It was mostly stolen and appropriated, though.
Okay, good. That's a whole nother conversation for another day, right? But my understanding
because that is the perfect...
my understanding is that when we talk about the Old Testament, that does include Jews and Christians, right? Because that is sort of something that they share in common, right? I could be wrong, but that's my understanding. But go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, but the thing is that he is making it exclusively Jewish alone. But that was not the context of this conversation. We were speaking about the God of the Old Testament. Anyways, in the Old Testament, my question is this. Is there any place in the Old Testament, if you want to call it the Torah, that is fine. Is there any place in the Old Testament where rape was condemned as a sin? George, can you give me?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. There are multiple places in Deuteronomy where it is condemned as a sin. And people in this room have... Excuse me, you asked me a question, I'm going to answer you.
Wait, one mic on me, right? So, George, why don't you get that passage out? And then when it's time for you to speak, you can reference that so it's not a back and forth. Okay, and you go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so thank you. So please pull up a verse, because I know the verses are going to bring up in Deuteronomy, and we all read it already today, and we found out that the punishment wasn't because rape was committed, but the punishment was because goods were actually violated, because women that were commodified were actually violated as property, and the property value was low in association to a man. The crime was not penalized individually as a crime. So, like I said, the question is...
I've got the verse for you. Let me read it to you, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. So, Deuteronomy 22:28-29. If a man happens to meet a virgin who is not pledged to be married and rapes her, and they are discovered, he shall pay her father 50 shekels of silver. He must marry the young woman, for he has violated her. The language violation, by the way, is similar to other language around physically hurting people. He can never divorce her as long as he lives. Now, one thing you should know is, again, this is so you understand, when you talk about the Old Testament and the God of the Old Testament, the Old Testament is a Jewish book. It is the Torah. Christians, as Jeffrey said, appropriated the Old Testament and made it their own, which is fine. That's fine. It's history. Jews have always had the Old Testament, and we've always had the oral law. It is a law in Judaism that the woman does not need to marry her rapist. That is an obvious thing. Judaism has always maintained, Jews have always maintained that the woman does not need to marry her rapist. And here, clearly, to your question, you see that it is a crime to rape a woman who is not pledged to be married.
Wow.
And one second.
Could you highlight the punishment in that verse? Hold on.
I'm highlighting.
What's the punishment, please?
The punishment here is 50 shekels of silver.
Fucking did.
Mm-hmm.
Now, yes, the punishment is 50 shekels of silver. However, in other passages in Deuteronomy, if the woman had been pledged to get married, the punishment is stoning to death. And Jewish law, Jewish tradition, the Talmud actually allowed for capital punishment or physical punishment.
Forget the Talmud.
One second. I'm answering your question. I'm answering your question, sir. I'm answering your question.
You are not answering my question under
I am, sir. I am.
Forget the Talmud. We are not working with the Talmud.
Excuse me. I'm going to answer your question the way I would like to answer your question.
Then if you're not going to answer the question under the scope of
I am answering your question. I'm answering your question. You're asking.
Hold on, George. Let's just give George like 20 more seconds of uninterrupted time, and then NUI, you can just go and just respond to him, please. We can't hear you guys if you keep talking over each other. So just give him 15 seconds. Let him just round up NUI, and then you can respond, please.
Great. Thank you. So, as I said, for both married and unmarried women, there is a punishment. One is capital, or betrothed and unbetrothed. One is capital. One is it's a capital offense. The other one, it's supposed to be financial remuneration. And again, as I said, Jews do not believe, the Old Testament is a book that was originally a Jewish book. And so we always had the oral tradition, and the oral tradition that goes along with these passages stipulates that the woman doesn't need to marry her rapist. That's one. And I'm wrapping up. And the last thing is that it is a sin. It is a capital offense to rape any woman, even your own wife. You are not allowed to rape your own wife. The sex has to be consensual, and it is considered a sin in Jewish tradition for any kind of rape to occur.
All right, and you please go ahead and respond, and let's try to just move on, please.
Yeah. So please, first of all, let's stop bringing out the Talmud. None of us here practice Judaism. We are speaking on the Old Testament
the Old Testament includes the Talmud.
Okay, thank you. So we are speaking on the Old Testament from a Christian point of view, because we are citing the Bible, not the Talmud. So if you want to make your argument has to come from the Bible, because that is our scope of reason.
It does not. Your argument needs to be more educated.
Wait, hold on, George. Let's not interrupt each other, please. I'm begging you guys. We actually can't hear you if you keep speaking over each other. So, Enua, go ahead. And then, George, if you need like another minute, you can respond after the next speaker, please. There are people waiting. So I think, Enua, once you're done, let's have a speaker in between. I think Ranting wants to go. Let's have someone else in between you guys to kind of calm the air, and then George can respond, please. So, Enua, go ahead.
Thank you. So I understand why the need for the Talmud. If we are having a conversation on the Abrahamic faith, or if we're having a conversation strictly on the Old Testament or something of that nature, right? What we are saying was the God in the Bible. So we are being very, 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 very specific. We can't verify the sources he's saying in the Talmud. So he could be lying, and there is no way we could verify that. So how do I know that everything he just cited out from the Talmud is correct? We can't. None of us are able to verify it right here.
Anyone, please, I have a question.
Oh my
I
God.
provided you with the link, and you are.
Who's that one? I got to sit
Please
down.
don't interrupt, guys. Please don't interrupt. And you want, please go ahead and round up. And
Thank
Atheist,
you.
if you want to go ahead, please.
Thank you. I just want to say that. So that is why I don't want the Talmud involved, because I can't verify anything he says. I can't. No one here has the time to verify. We are speaking on the Old Testament because this is what we are knowledgeable about, and we are quoting verses from the Bible. Now, secondly, I don't think there is how you would, in all your sensibilities, actually think that 50 shekels of silver is good enough as punishment for rape. How does that desensitize somebody from actually committing that crime?
Who said I thought it was good enough?
Oh God.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And you are you done?
See, George, if you interrupt me again, I'll move you to the audience. It's just that simple. So,
guys, no interruption, please. And you want go ahead and round up.
I'm landing here. So all I'm trying to say is this, right? 50 shekels of silver is not a punishment, because if I see another pretty woman that I know is a virgin, all I have to do is to ready 50 shekels of silver and she's mine for the rest of my life. So that is not something to desensitize you from doing it. In fact, that would encourage you to go and do it as long as you have 50 shekels of silver. Secondly, the one that has capital punishment is because she is betrothed, not because of the crime that was committed. It is because of her association to a man. That was why in the initial one, her punishment was to associate her to a man. That was literally what they had made her do. And now the second case, where she was introduced to a man for the sake that this is a spoilt good belonging to a man, it is as good as theft. So why? The capital punishment is now inflicted. So please, it is not because rape is a crime that they had the punishment. Is the capital punishment? It is because of the victim's association to a man. Like I said, I can't verify what you're saying in the Talmud. You may be right, you may be wrong, but please let's restrict our conversation to the Bible. Thank you.
All right, George, hang tight really quickly. Atheist, go ahead.
Okay, let's even assume he's correct about the Talmud. It goes to show that the Torah is crap. I will keep saying this. You are doing the same thing Christians are doing. The Old Testament is crap, so the New Testament has to come with a cool, mellow God, Jesus Christ. It is still damning all the same. If there's capital punishment for every form of rape in the Talmud, it damns the Torah even more. So, George, you are well versed. This is your religion. As Inwa said, Judaism is not the chopping block, but the God of the Bible is. So Judaism will always cast stray bullet, no doubt. So that's my case. The Old Testament is crap, so else the Talmud has to come and the rabbis had to discuss, and the Talmud had to come up so that things will not go haywire. This is the same thing Christians did. So who's next?
Okay, awesome. George, I know you want to respond, but there are two people that have messaged me that they actually also wanted to address you. And they actually happen to be the next speakers. So I think it's actually perfect. So let's have Pontius Pilate. Oh, yeah, that's the guy from the Bible. Okay. Pontius, and then Mary, and then George will respond to everyone. George, I really hope you have a good memory. And then John will go. And then Josiah. Okay. So Pontius Pilate, go ahead. And then after that will be Mary. You guys can address your questions to George directly. George will respond to everyone. Hopefully we can move on from this whole thing. And then John will go. So Pontius Pilate, go ahead.
All right. Somebody already gave the answer I had in mind. So I'll wait for my turn to speak.
It's actually your turn to speak. You're actually next.
Oh, okay.
Unless you want to go after this whole, George fiasco, then you want to do that.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Let me wait. So after the questions are answered, I can then speak.
Okay, perfect. All right, Mary, go ahead. I know you're next, and I know you also wanted to address George. So why don't you go ahead? George will respond, and then we'll go to Pontius and then John.
All right, thank you. Yeah, George, so I just had a quick question, and I wanted to know your thoughts. Do you feel like the Christian tradition of using the Torah as the Old Testament takes away from maybe what you feel is like the true context of God's mind and his perspective on how people should lead their lives? Because it seems like you're saying that if we use the Old Testament alone to get and understand God, then we miss out on other parts, like what you said that the Talmud says. Is that essentially what you're arguing? Like, do you feel like is an issue with Christians using the Old Testament as part of their text and not taking the entire literature or tradition of Judaism into account?
So I partially what you're saying, it reflects partially what I'm saying, but not fully. So the nuance is this. At this point, right, Christianity has had, many hundreds of years of developing its own set of beliefs and guidance and ethics, etc. But originally, when Christianity kind of branched off of Judaism, the thing that Christianity misses, and I think it's kind of interesting to see, is Judaism always had this oral tradition, always had Talmud, and the Talmud is really what gave Judaism a lot of its ability to adjust and to adapt with the times. If we really zoom way out, what we see is that Jewish law, right, became biblical law. Biblical law, right, became British common law. And British common law became actually the basis of Canadian and US law and jurisprudence, right? Things like borrowed the cow, and does the lender or the borrower need to give it back? And what happens if the cow is injured? Those things are actually argued in the Gemara, and they actually form the basis of what we today determine to be property laws around the world. So I guess to some extent, I am saying that if people talk about the Torah, and if people talk about here is what people believed in the Bible at the time of the Bible, ignoring the Talmud or not studying the Talmud ignores what people believed, how they lived, how they practiced, how they determined court cases. And yeah, I think it would have probably been a much better ride for everybody in the world if Christianity had continued and, maybe kept up with some of the Talmudic arguments and actually incorporated some parts of Talmudic kind of scholarship into Christianity. It probably would have been a less rough ride the last 1,000 years or so.
Okay. Thank you. So Funmi, can I now make my actual statement?
Yeah. Yes, okay. You can.
Awesome. Thank you. So I wanted to say that if the argument, because it was said earlier, if the point that God is sovereign is supposed to be a point to further buttress the idea of free will, I don't see how that does that. In fact, I would say that makes it even more of the case to show the issue with seeing injustices happening and a God that seems to be selectively involved and intervening. If we were saying that the premise of God is that he is omnibenevolent, omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient, then that would mean that the beginning and end of the world as we know it, he's aware of everything that's going to happen. And that means that he can't be surprised, he can't be shocked. So then it begs the question of, okay, then what is the point of all of this? If you already know what's going to happen, what is the point of all of this? I don't think that necessarily, what's the word? contradicts free will, but it does say a lot, I think, as far as like what is the point of all of this. There are Christians that argue, well, it is through pain, it is through suffering that God shows his glory, right? That despite the ills of the world, that's where God shows his glory. And then I have to ask, why is rape, why is severe trauma, why is childhood cancer necessary for God to show his glory? Why is it that it's better off, that the better option is that existence exists as we know it, where humans experience these very enormous pains? Why is that fine compared to perhaps humanity not existing at all? At least in the latter case, there's no pain, there's none of this to speak of. So it would be very interesting to see how someone can argue that the former case of the world as we see it and the injustices that happen and God standing by is better than a world in which none of this exists.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, all right. Mary, thanks. George, I did promise you like a minute and a half to respond. So George, go ahead and respond, and then the next speaker will be John, and then Pontius Pilate, and then we're gonna round out the queue. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
You didn't call my name for me.
Yeah, you're on the queue. So the queue that I have right now after George responds is John, Pontius Pilate, Josiah, Adebukola, Dami Uzo, Nugas, Odeshi, and Regis. That's the queue that I have and I read out. So sorry it's taken so long. But George, go ahead and respond.
Great. I won't even take a whole minute and a half, just super briefly. I think the thing I was trying to bring up is really that, the Old Testament, the God of the Old Testament, who originally was the God of the Jews, then became the God of Christians, and then I guess became the God of Muslims, and then and has always been the God of everyone, right? That God prohibited injury to people, commanded all of us to, and not just Jews, by the way, it was everyone. We have the Noahide laws. So that God is supposed to be the God for everyone. Injuring anyone is prohibited. And so when the rabbis, when the sages started to interpret the Torah, and again, it's really, I keep trying to say that when you talk about biblical law, when you talk about the Torah, simply limiting yourself to the Torah and not looking at easily found, easily citable Talmudic interpretations of the Torah, you're leaving out 50% of the information. So when deciding how much a rapist paid his victim as recompense for pain, for example, the rabbis, to their credit, they treated sexual assault as anyone else injured during an attack. And I can cite the source, Bava Kama 83b 84a. And anyone who DMs me, I can send this to you. You can read it. With the addition that the man who rapes a virgin also has to pay a biblical 50 shekel fine. So there was physical punishment, there was jail time, there was actually capital punishment. The death penalty was seldom enforced, but it was allowed even in the cases of rape. The rabbis did not hold the woman responsible for encouraging the assault. So, by the way, in Jewish law, you actually have very early examples of the modern conception of feminism. They did not hold the woman responsible for encouraging the assault by how she dressed or where she walked, for example. The rapist, like other assailants, had to pay compensation for any permanent impairment. For example, if the woman was hurt, loss of virginity, the mental anguish she suffered, her shame, all of that is actually treated very early on in these commentaries. And this was core and part of how the ancient Jews and Israelites and then their successors treated rape. And the rape victim, if the rape victim was injured, for instance, there were heavier punishments. So anyway, and everyone agreed, every single rabbi, and it's very hard to get a room full of Jews to agree to something. I have to tell you, every single rabbi agreed that the woman could refuse to marry the rapist. So I would encourage everyone here, If you're going to talk about, biblical law or biblical traditions, get a rabbi or read a little bit about the Talmud that comments. Like if you're reading Deuteronomy XYZ, find the Talmudic chapters that are commentary on Deuteronomy XYZ, and you'll get a much fuller picture. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you. So this was actually really interesting, and I wish, because what I'm really curious as to how Jews view Christians now, just after your submissions, George. Because my understanding has always been that Jewish people just tolerate Christians, essentially. So, I'm going to kind of look into the rooms you go to see if that's a topic that, you have. But yeah, please, let's move on. There are people waiting. Let's round out the queue. I'm going to do a quick reset, and then we're going to round out the queue. So you are in the space. This club is sort of like a blank canvas, right? We allow the members of the club to kind of create the spaces that they want to create. And sometimes we do have different topics that get a little heated. And we have some topics that completely contradict the next, right? Depending on the person that holds the space. The admins of the club try not to sort of insert themselves too much into the conversations that people have. So you can sort of view the space as a community inside of the community of Clubhouse. That is, the space is what you make it. So if you're not already following, please go ahead and follow. This room was created by the Ranting Atheist and Tobere. And it's really just asking the question, was God in the Bible a rape apologist? We have heard several different arguments about, some people saying yes, some people saying no. Two main topics in the Bible have been used to support the fact that, yes, in fact, God was a rape apologist. The first is the Immaculate Conception. People have said that Mary did not have the ability to consent to the pregnancy and as a result was raped, sort of justifying the notion that God was, in fact, a rape apologist. There are also several different passages that have been read. One of them being the fact that if a man does rape a virgin, he has to pay the father, I think it was like 50 shekels, right? And then has to also marry her, right? And then the point there is that the woman does not sort of have a say in any of this. So that has been sort of on one side of the argument, reasons why people have sort of concluded that God is a rape apologist. There have been people as well on the opposite side who have come and said in regards to Immaculate Conception that because God did not penetrate Mary, trigger warning, we cannot conclude that that is in fact rape. Rape only happens if there is, direct physical contact. And because that did not happen, there was no rape that did ensue. The argument regarding the other passage about the 50 shekels is the fact that the man has to pay a fine and also has to marry the woman, that in itself is a punishment. And because there is a punishment, we can safely conclude that God did not, consent to rape, or there is a punishment for rape. So God is not a rape apologist. I'm just here to sort of like help moderate the conversation. I do not have a dog in this fight. I am not a Christian, nor am I an atheist. But yeah. So once again, please follow the club if you are interested in other different conversations, and follow any speakers on the stage that you sort of align with. Maybe they said a thing or two that you really liked. Make sure you do give them a follow. I'm going to read out the queue that we have to sort of round up the topic. We have been here for several hours. We have John speaking next, then Pontius Pilate, then Josiah, Adebukola, Dami, Uzo, Nugas, Odeshi, Regis, and those are the people that have messaged me on the back channel. So John, please go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, so I wanted to ask a question to Shanishila. Well, before I do that, I wanted to just address something that George said. So it seems like we have been like maybe misrepresenting Jewish views since we started the room, but that is not the intention at all. I don't understand that Jewish people have maybe different views on these things, but at least from my perspective, I was trying to like speak on these issues from a Christian's perspective, and not just any Christian, a Christian who holds to a very strong view of biblical inerrancy. If you know any Christian that is a fundamentalist, at least you consider them a fundamentalist, you could just get them and maybe speak to them on some of these things, and you would see what I'm talking about. So, because I even know that there are Christians who don't accept biblical inerrancy, and I wouldn't be making some of these arguments towards such Christians. So, that being said, I wanted to ask Shani Sheila some questions, and anybody can. I'm not saying you could come up to answer the question, but you could just try to think of it, especially if you are maybe you are a theist or a Christian. So, and the reason I'm asking these questions is because I want to see the way you view I want to understand your view of the Bible, and I want you to understand where a lot of us are coming from. So I'll just ask 3 questions that are quite yes or no questions, and if you want to answer them, you could go ahead and answer them. So the first question I would ask is that would you consider it moral for people to maybe attack a community or a town or whatever, for, let's say, this community where they're actually doing some very immoral things? Would you consider it moral for people to attack them and slaughter their, let's say, 3 months old, 5 months old, 1-year-old babies along with them? So that's the first question. So secondly, the second question is that do you think it's possible for God to give immoral commands? Do you think it's possible for God to tell somebody to do something that is immoral? Is that possible? I think you could answer a yes or no to that question. So the third question is, when you read 1 Samuel 15:3, and it says that God told Samuel to tell Saul to go slaughter the Amalekites and their men, their women, their children, their babies, their animals. Do you actually believe that God gave that command? So that's the 3 questions I want to ask. And mind you, I'm not I use that specific passage because I want you to understand where we are coming from. It's not like I'm trying to change the topic, but I want you to understand, because I'm using that topic and that passage because it's very, if there's anything as plain as possible, I would say it's that passage. It's not something you could say that, oh, you are misinterpreting it. But it's not, it's a different context. It's very plain. It's very clearly written. So if you could answer those 3 questions, I would really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay, John, your first question, I would say no. And your second question where you asked is, does God give immoral rules? God does not give immoral rules. And the third question you asked about Samuel, the book of Samuel, the whole story, I need to read it clearly before I make any conclusions, because I don't make assumptions on the Bible. So I really don't know what transpired in the story that you were talking about, where God told them to kill babies and children. So before I make any conclusion based on that, I need to read it. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, please, what was your... I didn't get the answer to the first question. Sorry about that.
What did you ask me, the first question?
I said, would you ever consider it moral for, let's say there's a community of people now that we know that these people are very evil, maybe they do very bad things, and because of that we had to maybe go and attack them or something,
kill them and all that.
Yes. Now I'm asking you, would you consider killing their children, their 3 months old babies and all that?
It's not moral to kill anybody, let alone kill children.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much, John. Pontius Pilate, you are the next speaker.
All right. My take on the whole thing is, I kind of feel the whole argument is, let me not say pointless, but what we're basically doing is we're trying to put, first of all, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God though, but having been raised a Christian, I want to define God the way I understand him. The scripture says he's God. He's over and above all. So from the Bible point of view, he is God still up there. He has made laws unto man. But what we are doing now is turning around and trying to hold that God to the values, to those laws. But there's nowhere in the Bible where he states that he himself, God, is to be bound by those moral or those laws, those commandments. Those commandments are meant for mortals. So God can command you not to rape, but he is not bound by that law. So therefore, he can support rape where he likes, and he cannot support where he does not like. I need us to get that difference, that the standards by which we are holding God this evening, according to the scriptures, are standards for you and not for him. Now, the people trying to portray God as good, God is loud about the fact that he's good. And the people trying to portray him as terrible, God himself has never denied that he's a terrible person. So if you look at the scriptures, God can easily tell you and say, look, vengeance, you cannot avenge. But he will turn around and say, I am the God of vengeance. All right. So even the things he commands you to do, he is not hiding the fact that he's not bound by it and he can do and overdo. The things you call terrible, God will open his mouth and tell you that I'm a consuming fire. That's not an attribute of love. Okay, so if we are saying he saw a rape happening and he allowed the rape, that God is telling you that not just rape, I have the capacity to create hell and keep people in hell for eternity. And you are talking about rape. I'm more terrible than that. When you talk of being loving and kind, he can show you examples of being loving and kind. And if you want to talk about being a badass, being a terrible God, being a God of injustice, he can also show that side. All right. So just like somebody said in the beginning, he can tell you God is love. But at the end of the day, Esau I love and Jacob I love, Esau I hate. So on one hand, he can hate. On one hand, he can love. So if you're now saying, oh, God is a hater, the God himself is not hiding it. He is writing it in the Bible for you to see. Now, I have the capacity to hate. And I can even hate babies from the womb. Babies who have done nothing. I have the capacity to just hate them for hating's sake. So if we now come around and start saying, no, he's a rape apologist, did he say he's not? He's telling you in his book that he could have it instead of this rape to happen. But he allows it. So if you're coming to say, oh, that's fine. But my point is that the man you are accusing has never come out to say that I'm not terrible. He is both good. He is both terrible. He can be partial. He created me and you in the image of God and turned around and say, these people called Israel, they will be a chosen people. So you are not chosen. So he can be partial. He can be unloving. He can be so unjust that he can take the sins of a father and visit it down to the 7th generation. Tell me any form of injustice that is worse than that. That me and you today are suffering labor pain in the hospital because somebody ate apple 6,000 years ago. Me and you are still suffering it till today. That's cruelty. But the God is not hiding it. He's letting you know that I have duality. I can be good. I can be miserable. You can't out-miserable me. He's got everything within him. All right, so he can tell you in the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's property. And he turn around and tell Abraham, you see your neighbor's property, Canaan land, I will give it to you and your generations. That's coveting thy neighbor's property. And when they went there, they slaughter. You're talking about rape. There are cities God command Israel, say, go in there. If you save one soul, me and you people will be in. Israel went in, found problem in God's sight because they saved the life of a king. So what I'm saying in essence is, I'm not a Christian, but what I'm saying is that the idea of trying to say, oh, God is not good and God is this one, the God you are talking about is not denying that he's a terrible person. It's out there in the open. He will tell you with his mouth. And then if you are on the side that, oh, God is good and this is that, he also is not denying that he's a good person. So he's not someone we can approach from the laws that have been given unto us to abide by. He's just everything all encompassing. Both wickedness, both kindness, all can be found in one person. And so I'll kill it here.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Atheist, did you want to say something?
Yeah, he's right about that. The problem is those who believe in that God believe he is all good, 100%, nothing bad. So that is why we are presenting it from this angle.
Okay. Sorry, though. Sorry, moderator. Right? Can I go ahead?
Yeah. Go ahead. You're so respectful.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Now, if you see, for example, they can always say, "Oh, God is a God of free will." Okay, that's fine. But guess what? What was Adam's free will in being created? All of us today are born without
our
we
consent
being asked whether we want to be born.
Mm-hmm.
So if the Christians are saying he is this, I'm just trying to say that there's also enough evidence, clearly by God, not denying, because you don't have free will in being born. And you get to make hell because you made a choice of saying, I don't want to believe. Simply for making that your free will that you don't want to believe, you perish in hell. All right. Look at 1 Samuel. When King Saul on his own, the Bible wrote that an evil spirit from God took over Saul. That is God trying to say, I have the capability to deploy evil spirits.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the evil spirits you cast out in church are actually deployed by God. He's saying the things in the scripture, except you don't want to see. His capacity for evil is there. His capacity for good is also there. So nobody should come and be, is except God is denying, then as a Christian, you can do good by helping him deny. But you cannot be denying something that even God is opening his mouth and saying that I am. So you can't be saying, no, he's a God of love. He's using his mouth to say that I am a consuming fire. So he's not even denying the things we are accusing him of. So let's just let him be. That's why it's not good to defend God.
Excuse me, can I get the chapter where you talked about evil spirit from God? I just want to get the chapter.
Okay, it's 1 Samuel 18 from 10 to 11. 1 Samuel 18, 10 to 11.
Regis also wanted to respond to you, Pontius. I was going to tell you to wait 1 second. Regis, did you want to go really quickly, please? And then we can move on.
Yes, ma'am. So it's just fascinating that it actually took an atheist to really say everything that God's sovereignty actually means. And I'm really like, with this. When I first brought it up, I had a lot of insults that maybe I'll get to later. But then Pontius, actually, everything that he actually just said, everything that he actually really explained, that I believe it makes a lot of sense to both atheists, Christians, Jews, and everybody, is that God is really sovereign. And that's all that there is. That God is sovereign. And he just says, and I'm glad that it took an atheist to actually say this, because if it was from the other side, there would have been reigns of insults and all that. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry you didn't read the sarcasm in what he said.
Okay, guys. I did get a message in my back channel that I'm going to read. Someone posted Luke 138, and Mary said, behold, the handmaid of the Lord, be it unto me according to thy word. And the angel departed from her. So this person says there was consent, even if it was not sexual as man does. So I guess the argument there is that with that passage, Mary did consent to being impregnated and thus consented to the... Okay, so it wasn't rape, I guess is the argument. Anyway, next person is Josiah. I'm going to read out the queue that I have for us to round out. Josiah, Adebukola, Dami, Uzo, Nilgis, Odeshi, Regis, and Chris. So Josiah, go ahead. Thank you for your patience, by the way.
Okay, you're welcome. Yeah, hello everyone. The Ranting Atheist, I'm sorry I don't know your name, but thank you very much for this room. And so you've even opened my eyes and I've learned. And truly I've learned from everybody. And so on. Really learned from everybody. Like I used to say, or like I would add, we cannot say that we have to choose this part of the Bible and decide to forgo history. or what the Bible is truly made of. Like Christianity is, let me use the word that everybody loves to use, is borrowed. Oh, we borrowed the white man's religion. Let me just play with that, even though I don't want to go into that and so on and so on, but let's borrow it. Oh, it's the white man's religion. But it's really not complete because we have been throwing statistics. I mean, we're not there when the Romans were there, but we looked at their statistics, we believed on it. We're not there when the Chinese were there in the hand, but we looked at it, and we agreed with so many of the things that were written there, even though we don't know. And I feel that George has, put in some, some links and so on and so forth. So I do feel that in the spirit of fairness, it's just, okay, let's just read and see if this God is really, really a rapist. Like, let's just see if this God is really a rapist, as everybody's, or like we're trying to say, okay, he is, that is a rape apologist. I'm a Christian, I don't support rape, and so on. There's someone I'm actually looking for, and so on, that did something to a family member in that regard. And it was somebody that we housed very well. So I feel the hurt right from the first time. I have been threatened before in school and stuff like that. A normal guy. So I know the kind of pain that it causes. I'm reading through it. There is no evidence. Now we can take some things out of context. I'm sure George is here, and I'm sure maybe later he will speak. He will tell you that some of the positions of even the Bible that we see right now, most of them were wrongly interpreted. And so on, based on politics, based on whatever, and so on. But we're just finding that out and stuff like that. And right now, nobody uses the Bible to actually rape anyway and say, oh, we're going to use this Bible. It was commanded that we're going to rape and we're going to kill. We're going to do that. George pointed out an important factor of the laws that we actually follow right now, which I actually said a little bit about earlier. Of so many of the modern things that we're seeing right now came in from all of these laws and stuff like that. So, but my eyes too have also been open to other things too that, are coming up and so on and so forth. Now, about the 50 shekels, we're saying that it is not, let me agree or temporarily agree that it is not enough punishment and so on. Right now, I want to say it right now, that if I was given in Nigeria of today and they say, oh, somebody will rape your daughter, and if she rapes your daughter, he has to vomit 8 million. I'm not sure the person will rape, because I just did the calculations and I found it out and I did the inflation and everything. That's $20,000, almost $20,000 to $25,000 that you're going to pay. So it in itself, and we know fines in itself is a deterrent to actually commit crimes and so on. And in Nigeria as a whole, with the way all this nonsense has been going on and useless men just disgracing themselves up and down, I will want that law instituted and so on as a deterrent, because if you don't have, then you die. Seriously, because rape is heinous on its own. It's not even, we're not even supposed to be discussing it in the first place. But that amount, and so on, looking at it, it might not have been sufficient, it might not have been enough. But in today's terms, coughing up 10 million naira because you raped somebody, that is crazy. That's really, really crazy. $20,000. That's really, really crazy. And I think in itself was a deterrent. Fines in most countries. That's why you don't drive one way in the US like you might probably do in Nigeria. Because once they impound you, they'll take you for psychiatric evaluation and go. So it's not that you do not want to drive stupidly in the US, even though you're coming from a country where that is allowed. But because of the fines and because of the punishment attached to it, you would not even attempt to do it in the first place. And so that's why I think those... Can I finish? Okay. Who was
that? You can. I'm just asking you to round up, please.
Oh, okay. So that's why that is there. Now, about the sovereign will of God, why things happen and so on, I'll just round up in 1 minute. There's a verse of the Old Testament for those that have read and said, I'm visiting the sins of the fathers even to the first, second, and third generation. We spiritualists or Pentecostalists have taken it in Nigeria to mean that it is your father's village people that are pursuing you. No. Medically, you could Google this. When your great-grandfather smokes, or when he starts to have problem with his system, when he starts to live his life very, very dangerously, it adds up in his DNA. The children he has begin to have serious issues, begins to have serious problems, and so on and so on. Now, that is not God's fault. You decided to pick up a stick of cigarettes. You decided to binge drink yourself, and so on. So whatever you see, you get it. Now, as for the child, even God told Joseph, take Joseph and run away. take Jesus and run away. God Almighty told Joseph to say, take my son and run. He could have said, no, I can protect him. He's not my son. I can protect him. So the first question we need to ask is, are we even listening to him, first of all, before we start blaming him? That's the first question we need to ask ourselves. Because Joseph was there to listen. If Joseph had stayed there and said, God, you are all-knowing and you are all sovereign. And so, of course, he was all sovereign. Of course, he could snuff out the life of Herod. But why did they ask him to run? So are we really listening to the voice? The person that died, maybe that morning, something told him, don't leave this house. We know it. Every single one of us. All of a sudden, you feel uncomfortable to go out. And so you just sit down and you hear something has happened. A lot of people during September 11th, World Trade Center, didn't just feel the need to go to work. A lot of people got delayed. A lot of people hit their hand somewhere. So there are stories of people that had just minor accidents, and while they were treating it, this happened. So, I mean, that's it on the wheel and so on. So if you listen to him, of course, he will tell you, he will direct your steps, all right? That's just what I want to add. Thank you, guys.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I would like to say something. Pastor Josiah has spoken. If you notice, please mute your mic. I'm hearing you. If you notice something you did, I don't know if you noticed. When you were drawing the parallel of 50 shekels to 8 million, you failed to add the part of the marriage. The whole marriage part is... you yourself, you subconsciously know that it is because wrong. You know.
No, sorry.
Josiah,
yes.
just let
you know you have agreed.
No,
for me, I'm not arguing with him. I just wanted to just make a small point. You know, I've agreed earlier on. So I was moving on that earlier assumption. I'm sorry if I didn't make it clear. I had agreed that no, you don't force somebody to marry your rapist. You know that is my stand on that. So I'm sorry I didn't mention it for those that are just coming in because I didn't know you people had joined in. So for that one, you know my stand on it. It wasn't a perfect law. It shouldn't have happened, and so on and so forth. But I'm just pointing out that it's a deterrent for you to even commit the crime in the first place. That's just all I wanted to do.
Okay, between me don't suffer.
Okay, Atheist, was that it? Okay, awesome. All right, perfect. All right, so we're going to round out the queue because Lord knows, we have been here for several hours. Okay, so rounding out the queue here, we have Adebukola is next. Wow, Adebukola, I'm so sorry. I know you've been waiting for a very long time. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you for me. Thank you. It's been a wonderful time, even though I can't really say this. Even though with several Bible verses we've brought up, trying to show you that this states God as a rape apologist. Many have been here trying to defend, even though I actually gave a scenario of a rape scene where this God is present and couldn't do anything about it. I'm trying. Nobody could tell me if that is not a scenario of a rape apologist. All they could say is human has been given free will, and I sometimes want to ask. I ask Taze that what is this free will they're talking about, and I just have to quickly go to Ephesians 1:11 that says all things are done according to God's plan and decision. And it's also said it's said that everything work out according to God's will. So if everything work according to God's plan, can we say man actually have free will? And let me just put it this way: if God gave man free will, how can everything be part of God's plan? And if everything is part of God's plan, how can man have free will? You're saying you have free will, and there's God's will there. If there's God's will, so how can you have free will? I just want to ask there's this okay, it was Shala. Sorry, I didn't pronounce your name well. You were the one asking me.
Just call me Shala.
Sorry. You're not telling me because I gave that scenario of the rape scene where the God is powerless, even though he's omnipotent and couldn't do anything to save the rapist. And you said man was given a free will. And I have to tell you now, the same fictional book you so much believe, even though it denigrates you, it says everything works according to God's will. So if everything works according to God's will, so do man really have free will? Shanae, so I'm sorry, just you can just reply to that.
stand on what I said, that man has a free will to live the way they want to live. Or if you can relate it to the stories in the Bible, God can tell you to do something. He doesn't force you to do it. Even when Jesus came to the world, he knew he was going to be betrayed by one of his disciples, but he didn't know whom it was. And when it was Judas that kissed him, he realized that the devil used Judas to betray him. So God already knows that. Even right now, God already knows that not everybody will stick to his words and his commandments and all that. But it's a pity that some people would be the ones that the devil will use. That's the point. God knows
you're
that not
getting my
everyone will
point.
make heaven.
You're not getting my point. Do you believe that everything works according to God's will? Can you answer that? Do you believe that everything works according to God's will? So if everything works according to God's will, so where is your own will coming from?
Where is my own will coming from?
Yes.
My own will is coming. Yeah, my own will is coming from, as a Christian that I am, I want to live the way that pleases God. That's just it.
It's the same. We're still saying the same thing. So it's God's will. We're saying the same thing. You can say that it's God's will. Everything works according to God's will. So you don't have any will in this sense. So God, once again, is a rape apologist. Please just accept that fact. You guys up here, any taste here, even up here, upstage, downstage, accept the fact that a taste girls is a rape apologist. I'm going to use my mic. I've been here for a while
based on
now,
what you guys said about many rape scenarios in the Bible, that God was like perverted and he how did you even say it, that he used to defend some people and he doesn't defend some people. It's not just the other people that didn't believe in God that was raped. Even the people in the Bible that believed in God was raped. Isaac's granddaughter was raped in the Bible and God didn't do anything then. There are a lot of people in the Bible.
God's will? Is everything according to God's will? Is everything according to God's will? Let me ask that question again.
You don't understand when they say everything is according to God's will. Okay. It means that the world right now is made up of good and bad. So definitely the bad will happen and definitely the good will happen. So even right now, the person that is in charge of the earth is not like the person that is in charge of the earth is Lucifer that is in charge of the earth. So the bad is definitely going to happen. So God's will.
Which kind of yes. You look so very, very intelligent, and I don't expect this from you. I don't expect this from you.
Let's move.
We should let it rest. Anyway, thank you for
It's already 9 hours. I've been monitoring time.
It's actually joined like
15 seconds to 9 hours right now. It's going to be 9 hours and 10 seconds. Yeah. All right.
Sorry, Atheist. Regis wanted to ask Adebukola a question, so let's allow him, please, a beg. Regis, go ahead with your question.
Hi, ma'am. I'm sorry. You mentioned the scripture that says God's everything was according to God's plan. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that for me, please? Thank you.
Are you disputing the fact that everything does not work according to God's plan? Are you saying everything does not work according to God's plan? Is that what you want to say?
Ma'am, please, when you started, you quoted a scripture. I just want to...
Ephesians 1:11.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think that was a fair question because I think that's something we hear all the time, like God is omnipotent and all the other omni stuff, right? So, and that's something I hear Christians say a lot is like everything happens according to God's will, God's plan. So yeah. Okay, Demi is not here. She was next. Uzo is not here either. Okay, good. So this queue is going to go quickly. Nugus is not. He's on the phone. Odeshi, we're actually up to you. Pontius and Rainbow, I see you guys. Rainbow, you have not spoken, right?
No, I haven't.
Okay, Rainbow, why don't you go? I'm so sorry about that. Why don't you go before Odeshi, just because Odeshi has spoken before. So Rainbow, why don't you go ahead and then Odeshi, and then we have like 3 more people, and then, yeah. All right, go ahead, Rainbow.
All right. Thank you very much. I think an atheist here has already said it, that most of the things, like this particular topic might even be pointless because obviously everything goes according to God's will. even though God gave us choices. And they say the foolishness of God is wiser than man's wisdom. So we Christians trying to defend God, we can't defend God, honestly, because we don't know why God does his things, because we cannot understand him. We are trying to think like God. We can't think like God. If we are God, we'll do the same way God did his things. So we're trying to want to defend God, to prove to this, okay, this is why God did this in the Bible. There are so many things that can't be explained with our human knowledge. It's only God that can explain those things. So there are some questions that they will throw at us and we won't be able to, the way they just threw the question to this lady previously, and she was stuttering a little bit. It's not questions that we can actually answer. And this is not even the reason why God even created us to come and be defending him. No. So even if God gave us choices, everything's going according to God's plan. See, God is God. He will remain God. So whether we argue this from now till tomorrow, we cannot explain some things. Believe me, there are a lot of things. No, even if you ask Pastor Adeboye, he will still stutter. We can't explain something. The only person you can actually ask is God. And truly, if there's a God, when we all die, we'll have the opportunity to actually ask him all these questions. So this topic, honestly, but I would say no, that God is not a apologist. But honestly, we can't actually start defending God and why God did some things. And we should note that the Bible is not complete. The Bible is not complete. It's not even near. It was not even near half complete at all. So there are so many things that are omitted in the Bible. There are so many explanations undone in that Bible. That is why it is making things difficult for us to actually explain. So let's just leave it the way it is. You can criticize God the way you want to criticize him. He will still remain God. But he's the only one that can actually answer whatever questions that you want to answer, because he's the one that knows the reason why he's... Because you see, the same God that still say he regretted creating man. It's in the Bible, Genesis. He said this. So we don't know why he said all this. We don't know. You can criticize him using your own knowledge and say, okay, this is not moral. Why would he do this? Why would the boy? He's God. And he knows the reason why he does these things. Thank you very much.
Okay. Can I drop a question for him?
Is that Atheist? Is that you?
No, that's Josiah. Josiah. Okay, Pontius. Okay, sorry. After you, let me just say something. God is God.
Yeah, are you calling me?
No, sorry, Josiah. I thought it was you. Sorry.
Okay.
God is God, yes. He's sovereign, yes. But according to who? You Christians, your God is in your head. But the problem is you are living in this world with us and you take actions based on your belief in that God. So we can't leave that idea alone. We need to question it, because your actions will affect us. So we keep having conversations like this. Let your God be your God. Let him be sovereign. It's all in your head. And ideas...
Please, can I ask a question? Please. It's Rainbow.
Let me land. Like I said, it is all in your head. These are all ideas. Ideas will always be challenged. The idea of your God will continuously be challenged by we who don't buy the idea of the sovereignty of your God. So you have the stage now.
So please, I actually just want to ask, all the atheists here, is it that you believe in God but you don't want to serve him, or you don't believe he exists at all?
I believe it's a bit.
You see,
because the word believe. I answered
the question. Rainbow. This is the problem. I answered the question you just asked. We don't believe in your God. You believe in your God. The idea of your God is all in your head. You take actions.
Bro, why asking? No, bro. Why I'm asking is because the word believe in an English
we lack belief. We
is
lack
something that
in
exists. something that exists, but you don't just want to believe in it.
We lack
So are you saying
belief,
the
or
thing does not
Rainbow. Lack
exist?
belief. That's the word.
Or what?
Lack
Guys,
belief.
can we not talk over each other? I think Rainbow has the floor. Rainbow, did you respond? Or Atheist, were you the one with the mic? Who had the mic?
Yeah, I was making a statement, yeah.
Okay, so why don't we...
I was just asking a simple question. Just a simple question.
Yeah,
That
okay,
was
so
just need for back and forth.
Okay,
Yeah, so it's that you believe in God. If you say you don't believe in God, still that belief means it exists.
Yes.
Lack belief.
Are you?
Listen,
wait.
listen.
Can I?
Hold on,
Go
Chris.
ahead.
Hold on, Chris. Hold on.
Yeah,
Hold on. Hold on.
ahead.
This is why I keep mentioning the whole. We do not believe your God is real, but you that you are speaking with me, you are real. You exist to me, and you believe this God is real. You take actions based on the fact that you believe that this God is real. Those actions affect us that don't believe your God is real. So the fact that you believe in a God that we don't believe is real is a problem for us who don't believe your God is real. I hope I am very clear.
Yeah. You're clear. You're clear.
All right.
If I could.
Perfect. Let's.
Briefly.
Who is that? Chris.
Yes.
Chris. You. Okay, Chris. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, it was just to.
I was actually supposed to ask a question.
Yes, this is just very brief.
Just go after Chris if you don't mind, please. We only have a few more people left. Okay.
Yeah, this is just very brief into what Rainbow was saying. Rainbow, that's like a different topic for a different room. I think you may have been asking about like a knowledge claim and trying to figure like who is an agnostic atheist and who is a Gnostic atheist. Like that's a different room that would need to be created. But overall, all atheists have a lack of belief. Like I'm particularly a Gnostic atheist, and I assert that I know that the God of the Bible does not exist, and I believe that it does not exist. But a lot of people you meet are agnostic. So what you are asking is a different question for a different room, and I think we should stick to the title. Thank you.
Okay, Pontius Pilate, why don't you go ahead and ask your question or your statement, and then all we have next is like a few people. So yeah.
Okay, so Rainbow, you said you believe in God, and at the same time you know the Bible is not complete. So the simple question is, what if the other side of the Bible you don't have access to is the part of the Bible that says, you know what, guys, this God thing is bullshit, we're just joking.
Yeah, thank God you just said
I like that. They are not reading sarcasm in what we're saying. It's just annoying. It's sarcasm, guys.
Adebukola, let him talk. You want to believe. See, you can believe whatever you want to believe. You have your belief. We have our own belief. You get. So you can believe in whatever you want to. That does not make your own belief right, and that does not make ours too right. So we are just going back and forth. The only thing is that when we all die, we'll actually know whether the God exists or not. That's just what I would just say.
No, what I'm asking is, if you believe in a God,
I can't answer that question. Honestly, I can't answer that question because the rest of the Bible, we cannot see. You are using the word if. So we can't actually tell.
Let me put it in another way. What I'm saying is that as a wise person, right, if you have a book that describes a God and you know within you this book is incomplete, wouldn't it make sense to wait till you have complete details? Because what it simply means is that you have belief in half details. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't it be fair to wait till you have full details before you profess God than profess him while you know you don't even? And guess what? We are just assuming that the other part of the Bible is half. What if this whole 66 book is just 1% and 99% missing? Wouldn't that mean your faith is 99% faulty? That's all I'm asking. Wouldn't it be wise to wait to get the full thing so that you know you are making full sense than to follow a God that you know half, or you don't even know the extent to which your Bible is complete? It's just my question.
Oh yeah, Rainbow.
Am I to answer?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it? Are you okay following God with incomplete knowledge, and you don't even know to what degree your incompleteness, the incompleteness of your message is, or would it be more sensible to wait till you have complete details before you profess God?
Okay, see, even the Bible said, if I can't remember the scripture, but even the Bible said that if we try to understand God, we'll run mad. So even if you are trying to say, oh, because we have an incomplete book and we don't know what the other half or the other parts of the book, what it says about God, and we are trying to now follow what he says in this other half, but see, it is what it is. It is what it is. Like I told you, I can't answer all your questions. I can't pinpoint. You can't ask me questions. I will stutter and to look as if I don't know what I'm saying. But I'm a Christian, and some Christians believe in what the Bible says, and what the Bible says does not go round all this. What the Bible says: love your neighbor as yourself, do good to people. So all these ones does not even really matter, honestly. So we don't really care whether we need to wait for the remaining half of the book to understand. We don't need to understand God. We just need to follow his commandments and do the right, even though we are not doing his commandments. You get? So even if to you people we are following, the God is in our head, and you think, oh, we are fools, we are just believing what maybe somebody votes just to allow, just honestly,
Rainbow, I understand you have questions. You're just suffering from cognitive dissonance. You have questions that needed to be answered. Rainbow.
That is what you think, bro.
Yeah. Guys, one second.
Bukola, that's a projection. That's a projection. When someone talks, you could talk of
One
Everybody hold it.
Thank you, Atheist. Atheist, did you want to add anything before we go to Odeshi?
Yeah, he just he spoke like a Christian. When they have nothing to say, that's always what we hear. And also I think I heard believe what allow people to believe what they believe. We can't do. If somebody believes he can enter any building and blow it up, do you want that belief to still stand? So it's always funny when I hear Christians say let people believe what they want to believe. When you believe bullshit, we need to ask you, why do you believe it's bullshit? And this is what this room is about. Why do you believe bullshit? That's all.
Okay, wow, that was a lot. Okay.
Can I go after Odeshi?
Please, can I ask a question to
Odeshi was next. Guys, 1 second. Sorry, Odeshi was next, and then Maria, definitely. I don't think I've heard from you at all. So let's let Odeshi go, and then Maria, and then we have like 2 more people, and then after Odeshi, Maria, it's actually just Regis and Chris are all I had left in the queue. So if there needs to be a last minute conversation, then we can look to round up. Okay. So Odeshi, Maria, Chris, Regis, if you guys still want to go ahead.
All right. I just wanted to say that I guess when it comes to what was called rape in the Bible, this might continue to be a debate, but we live in God has given us, common sense, and it's also like sometimes when you read the Bible, you have a lot of questions, and I think that is deliberate, and the reason happens to be, you have to talk to God when you read the Bible and pray for understanding. I think there's somewhere in the Bible where it says to pray for understanding and you will receive. If you ask for understanding, you pray to God, I want to understand why this laws around rape, applies, that there are certain conditions where a man will be allowed to rape a woman and would practically almost get away with it scot-free. And why in some cases only when the woman is betrothed is he required to be put to death for rape. Now, when I prayed, mind you, I fought this battle a long time ago, and when I did pray about it, the reason that I believe was dropped in my spirit was because in Jewish culture, an overwhelmingly majority of women, if not all of them, were betrothed before the age of 12. And so thereby, a fully grown woman in Jewish culture being raped was obviously a serious crime And one of the foremost reasons the man would be put to death was because, it was a serious crime. However, because they had women among them who were not considered Jewish women, who were like maid servants and stuff like that.
Who said it?
A lot of Jewish people did not feel like this woman should be treated the same as a Jewish woman, because Jewish people lived in a time where they were heavily discriminated against by other ethnic groups. And whenever God, they were surrounded by tribes that were mightier than them, as the Bible says. And whenever God gave Jewish people the power to conquer these tribes, right, they would feel like, why would you want to treat a woman from this tribe the same way you treat the Jewish women? Some Jewish people in general, both men and women, felt this way, which is why you would say, okay, you pay for the woman, or you let the woman go and stuff like that if the woman refuses, or this and that. Now, obviously, a lot of people will say, oh, it doesn't matter if she's a Jewish woman or not. You're right. It shouldn't matter at all. It really, really shouldn't. But again, these were times. And obviously, another person noted that this was Moses' law, not necessarily God's law, but Moses' law. And I also agree with that, because when Jesus Christ was talking to the Pharisees and whatnot, he told them that there were a lot of laws that Moses told them to do that that God did not necessarily approve of, but Moses told them it's okay to do it, because they had wicked hearts, and they had strong hearts, as Jesus said. He said they are to the strong hearts of men, or something like that. And it could have been that Jewish people back then during this time really, really did not like their neighbors in the same manner their neighbors did not like them, which is why a lot of Jewish people would have felt some type of way if a Jewish man was put to death for raping a non-Jewish woman. Now, that's just my explanation. You go and read the Bible and pray for your own explanation. Okay? Don't necessarily depend on my own, interpretation. When I read this scripture a long time ago and prayed about it, go and do your own research, go and pray your own prayer, and go and read the Bible. Now, as to whether or not God is sovereign, like somebody said, this is a conversation you're gonna have to have another day. But the only thing I can tell you is, if you want ultimate reason for whether or not God is real, God is sovereignty, you have to ask him yourself. You have to pray to yourself and say, show me proof that you are serving God. Because even when I think it was Moses went to liberate the Israelites, and the Pharaoh, what did the Pharaoh did? He called his wise men to show Moses proof that they had supernatural power. Now, God also told Moses what to do when he went to Pharaoh. You want to know why? God could have simply struck Pharaoh down. It didn't have to have Moses to say, put your hand in here, bring it out, turn the snake into, put your rod down, turn your rod into snake, all that rubbish. God didn't have to do that. But God wanted to do something. He wanted to show to the people he was about to punish right before they died that he wasn't God. In a lot of cases, God will prove himself. But there's no way that God will prove himself if you do not tell God to prove himself. God isn't just going to see you minding your business and say, let me prove, except in specific occasions. If you do not believe in God, God doesn't necessarily just walk up to people that don't believe and say, hey, let me just, waste your time and prove that I'm God. If you don't want to believe, if you don't even want to listen to God, God isn't going to force you to listen to him and say, let me just prove to you that I'm God. But when challenged, God has in very specific occasion told his people, prove to these people that I am God. You will see it in the Bible being repeated when God is either punishing people, or he's sending the 10 Commandments, or he's sending Israelites a sign, showing manna from heaven, striking this down. Whatever the case is, there are certain instances where they say God wants to prove that he is God. Now, does he have to? Absolutely not. But he will choose to do it when he feels like people who don't believe it are actually requesting proof, and this proof will make a difference between them believing and them not believing. And let me wrap up. If God doesn't believe he's going to make a difference in the hearts of men, God will not bother himself to prove he's God if he can just punish people. And it's really that simple. So if you're here, you don't believe in God, now would be a good time for you to question God and said, I need you to prove without any shadow of doubt that you are God, and I'll worship you. And if you cannot say that prayer, you can continue disbelieving all you want. and that won't be anybody's fault when you go to hell, because you never ask God without any shadow of doubt to prove yourself.
That's great.
It's really that simple.
Show you see these Christians. I did my best to make myself.
I saw it coming.
Show you see.
I knew she was going to mention her one or the other. I knew she was going to mention
what
her.
she just said, it had been addressed almost 2 hours ago. What she has said, she just came to rehash what she has said. She says she has prayed to God. She has prayed to God, and what the fuck is that, man? Anyway, please.
I knew her would be the end.
Everybody. Odeshi, please. In Deuteronomy 28, did it say in that Deuteronomy 28 or Deuteronomy 22? Was there any delineation between the Jewish women and the non-Jewish women in that particular verse? Yes or no?
I'm sorry, say that again.
In Deuteronomy 22, did the Bible differentiate in that particular chapter? Did the Bible say this rule is for Jewish women and this rule is for non-Jewish women?
No, but it's the law he gave to the Jewish people.
Hold on.
He didn't give the law to the non-Jewish people. The Bible did not. No, your answer is no. Hold on.
No,
your answer is no.
How come like Odeshi, you and anyone can't just like let each other?
I don't understand. She can't even answer.
But I answered this question. The answer is no. The Bible did not put a difference between Jewish women and non-Jewish women. But I'm telling you, for a woman, Jewish woman to not be betrothed was rare.
See, that's not what I asked you. Is that what I asked?
No.
This is why they make us write IELTS and SAT English, because we'll be answering questions that they didn't ask us.
No,
I have to say.
Please let him talk, I beg.
I asked a very, very straightforward question. Was there a differentiation in that verse? Is that a yes or no answer? And the answer is no. So you have no right to put any context that you're putting in there, because the Bible verse you are reading did not give you the loophole to differentiate that context. That is one. And the second question I'm going to ask you, you said that you have to read the Bible and pray that God does all those things you're talking about. If I read the Bible and pray to your God, would I come to the same realization that you came to? Yes or no? Odeshi?
Yes. Sorry, I thought my mic was on. I was actually speaking. Yes, you will.
Okay.
You know why? Because the Bible does say, ask and it shall be given unto you.
And the same answer is what we would get.
I mean, I cannot speak for God, but ask. Right? Because that's the answer that I got. Instead of listening to what other people were telling me, what did I do? I prayed about it. And that was the answer that I got. So you go and ask.
Okay, no problem. And Odesh, I want to put it that I prayed and asked for revelation, and Satan came to me. And that is why I missed.
Right, Satan.
That's pretty hilarious.
Odeshi,
okay.
Odeshi, you don't understand what you just said. You are damning every other Christian that didn't come to this your conclusion. I hope you're aware of that. This is the problem with God is not the author of confusion. If he gave you the answer, is the ultimate confusionist. If this is the answer, because Christians are giving us different answers, and you cannot tell me at least one of them did not pray to God for inspiration. So I don't get you trying to rationalize it to yourself and throwing other Christians under the bus based on this your answer. Anybody that doesn't come to this conclusion,
go and ask. That's why I said.
How can you say God is not the author of confusion?
No,
how can you say that?
The Bible says,
he brought confusion in the Tower of Babel.
Hold on.
Okay,
Can everybody one mic on atheist, right? Atheist is still speaking. Okay, great. I'm trying to kind of round out the queue. Chris, did you still want to speak?
Oh, before
yes, I do.
Hold Hold on, guys. Really quickly. Let me just handle this really quickly. Trust me. Hold on one second. Chris, did you still want to speak? Yes or no?
Yes.
You did. Okay, awesome. Okay, just I remember you were on a call when I called you. So I'm gonna have to just like fit you in here. Okay, so 1 second. Can you flash your mic if you still need to speak? Okay, Isaac or Riva Kunta. Yeah, that whole last line. Got it. All right. Hold on. Huh?
Maria is flashing as well. I don't know if
Yeah, Maria's actually next. So 1 second.
I also flashed though.
Who? Can you say your name?
Pontius, I flashed
Don't
my
talk
mic.
now. Don't talk now. You don't talk.
Okay, Pontius, I'm going to put you in the end. Okay, awesome. All right, I'm going to read out the queue, and then I'm actually going to update my DP with the queue, okay? So the queue as it stands for us to wrap up, because Lord knows we've been here for a long time. Some of us are trying to go to the streets. It is Saturday. I'm going to read out the queue. It's Maria, Regis, George, Chris, Nugis, Isaac, Oriva, Kunta, Pontius. That is the queue that I have, and then we can hopefully round up. All right, so Maria, go for it. I'm gonna update my DP now.
Thank you. So I've been listening for a while, and regarding things like rape and just what we've been discussing, I feel like a lot of people have mentioned culture, and that a lot of people try to justify it because what they were doing was culturally appropriate, and it was justified because it was at that time. Someone already said, well, why does God have to submit to the culture at that time? And then the response to that I heard was something like, because God understands that was the people's culture, whatever. But I have a bigger question that I don't know if it's been addressed, which is, if that's the case, in terms of, the culture and the temporary thing, then why do theists argue for objective morality? Why do they say morality comes from God? Then if you say that the moral codes at that time was temporary and was subjective to the people of that time, why do you argue for objective morality? And if you're willing to concede that morality is subjective, then why are we following any of the moral codes in the Bible at all? Why do we have any systems at all that are influenced by biblical scriptures? I think a lot of what Odeshi said as well, I just find it interesting how these religions are essentially cults that are brainwashing people, because if you're not able to, as Rainbow wasn't able to answer a question, but he would just say, I don't care. I just follow the commandments. I've heard people say the Bible is my authority. It's just very scary, because you're essentially saying you have no personal agency. You have no connection to your own intuitions and your own instincts. And you are also just detached from reality at present, because it feels, every time I'm in these conversations with Christians, it feels as if they're not even living in this reality. They're living in a reality that's been promised to them, which is, it doesn't exist. It's a future promise, and you're waiting for this to happen, and you believe it's going to happen, but it's never happened yet, and you've never actually experienced it. And everything you read about are things of the past that hasn't even been confirmed to be true, but you believe and you trust the people that wrote them. So essentially, you're making a commitment to the people that wrote them, and it's not even a commitment to God anymore, because you are able to, out of the thousands of religions that exist, out of the thousands of scriptures of other religions that exist, you chose this one to believe in. I know that, some people fall into their religion through indoctrination, but other people fall in it, through desperation and other reasons. But to the people that defend it so strongly, I just think, what are you defending if it doesn't speak truth to your reality? If it doesn't, I don't know. And I know that they say things like belief, but like I would just say, like, analyze yourself. Why are you so comfortable with a belief that you are only able to have based on historical events that happened? So, i.e., obviously, most of the people in this room are Black. The colonialism that happened and then religion being used. Let's not forget Africa had many attempts of invasion, but the only reason why Africans were able to even be enslaved like this for so long was because of the mental manipulation that took part. It was the religion that really, I would say, took the soul out of the people, and what allowed them to be enslaved for so long. It wasn't the weapons. It wasn't because the Europeans had anything special. It was simply the manipulation of the mind. And I feel like that is our biggest problem, because some of these conversations that's been happening, and I've been here for a few hours now, it's shocking. Like, I don't know how to describe it, because I used to be a Christian, but when you're out of it, it's like, I don't know. It doesn't even feel real. It's just, I don't know. It feels like you're speaking to zombies, because it doesn't feel like they're in the same reality as you. I don't know if anyone understands what I'm trying to say, but I'm just rambling.
Absolutely. We understand.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's all. Sorry, I was just rambling at the top of my head. Oh, I'm done. Sorry.
You weren't rambling, Maria. You weren't. I think a lot of us understood what you were saying. Okay. Check out my DP for who's next, please.
Thank you very much for listening to this episode. Kindly subscribe on whichever platform you prefer: Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube. Then please rate this podcast on iTunes and Spotify. We'd really appreciate that. Have a great week, and I'll catch you on the next one.